This is Endo, and I'm doing the sixth broadcast of the Walk the Talk show. Today, broadcasting from lovely Edinburgh with wonderful weather, and just waiting for a fellow Scotsman to join the call. Uh, and I think we've got our guest Peter. Good to see you,
Hello.
brother. How are you?
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay. You're a little quiet, but I think I can make up for that. Can you say something now?
Hey, good morning. I'm just checking if you're coming through my actual microphone or my webcam. So
Yeah,
for audio,
your is my audio fine?
yours is great. Yours is loud. Yours is. I'm guessing you're sitting in a coffee shop right now, quite relaxed,
I
and
am. Yeah, I'm just
caffeine
in
boost.
Victor Hugo here in Edinburgh. Yeah. So I arrived yesterday and kind of missing Scotland. I have a little bit of FOMO for Scotland today, but only here for a couple of days, and then I'm off again.
Yeah, that's right. I forget you left to pastures anew to actually enjoy the life of a Bitcoiner and sort of leave behind us in the
You know,
stone age here.
it's hard work. It's hard work. It is hard work. But yeah, I had the privilege to to be working remotely. So yeah, I'm currently based in Madeira, and then just visiting here in Scotland again, just for a few days to sort out some business. And yeah, I can see only good things about Madeira and Bitcoin community there as well. So it's
Oh,
been
don't you're making me. I've already got enough FOMO in my life. I don't need to hear how amazing Madeira is.
No worries, no worries. And we get Pan as well. Pan, how are you?
Hey, man.
Nice to meet you. I'm good. Good. You?
Nice to meet you too. I don't believe we've met, but Peter said we should have you on the call as well. So there we go.
Thank you for
We'll
having
do
me.
a very quick. Of course, we'll do a very quick rumble, just 1 hour. We're live already, so basically, this is not cut. This is just going live. And basically, I have this habit of going for a walk that I developed some 4.5, 5 years ago. Basically, every Saturday, every Sat, we walk the talk and we go for a walk and talk with fellow Bitcoiners, and we spread the knowledge, we learn ourselves, we try to onboard some merchants, we educate others. I think it's a great format that I encourage everybody to try out. And since there's been some following and Bitcoin walks started popping up all over the world, I thought that there's a nice way to follow up or prepare people for Saturday with a Thursday rumble between fellow plebs like ourselves. So just a 1 hour, really unscripted, very spontaneous, very natural. But I thought that you guys deserve the spot in the Walk the Talk show number 6, because there's something cooking in Scotland. And it's coming up quite soon. I had the pleasure to be at the first edition of Be the Change conference, and this is now going to be the third one, right?
Yeah, it's. I feel like it's growing quite organically. It's a bit of snowball effect. There was no long term plan, but I feel like there's a space for it to just grow at its own pace. Really, just focusing on quality over quantity. I'd much rather be in a room with 6 Bitcoiners than 6,000 crypto holders.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to educate locally where you are. Like yeah, it's fine to go to Prague. It's fine to go to different conferences, different places around the world. But what we really want to do is make a change right here, right now. In our neighborhood, right?
Yeah, sorry, Pans.
No, it's all right. I was just thinking that the overall in the UK, we are still in. I think we define it early adoption phase of Bitcoin. I think the awareness is very high because Bitcoin is known by many people, and but I think it's still used by a minority. So the challenge is then moving from people who know about Bitcoin, people who use it, but to people using Bitcoin everyday life, and not only by spending with merchandise and everything, but also having that mindset to set about set aside a kind of DCA, buy regularly or do something like that one. And to go back to what you were saying is that, yeah, the local community, that one is where I think is going to be the next stage. Sorry, the first stage, which is local adoption first, and then that one can be scaled up to nationally. But if there is no local adoption, no groups, no meetup, and stuff like that, obviously the Bitcoin is going to be even slow down. It's going to become adopted at some point because it's inevitable. But the fact that we have events, communities, and groups where we can talk, that kind of low pressure environment is definitely facilitate not only the adoption but also the knowledge around Bitcoin itself, which is I think most important.
Yeah,
And I think, yes, sorry, I just wanted to say there, Panji, reminded me, people often, they always talk about the early adoption phase, and I think they use it almost like in a global scale, but as you know better than anybody as well, Endo, it's really all about your local space sometimes, and Bitcoin being an early adoption phase and Wall Street really doesn't affect our lives here. And Hans, I think you were sort of touching on it. It's more like an early awareness phase here in Scotland, not an adoption. My mission has never been to try and get my local high street to accept my Bitcoin. It's the people in the shops. It's your family. It's your friends. It's your community. That's who I've really spent my time.
That's how it spreads. Yeah.
The conference was never built so that PC world can accept my Bitcoin. It was built so that the people on the high street that are finding it difficult actually can learn that there's something else out there. You don't have to buy it. You don't have to come to the conference, buy it and sell it and trade it. But at least take the time to learn about this. And if it's an awareness campaign more than an adoption campaign, I feel like that's probably a better way of doing it.
That's a very good point, and I keep on repeating that to everybody that I try to orange peel. Like, look, don't put, I'm not talking you into investing, putting all your money into it. What I'm trying to explain, it's worth learning this technology. It's worth to learn how to use that, and think of that as learning how to drive. At one point you were not able to drive a car, then you went for a driving license course, and now you can do it. Same story, same here. Nobody in this world was born knowing how to drive. Everybody had to go for this process. So, I like this analogy because it's kind of simple. It makes it, understandable to someone who's saying, oh, it's too complicated. I cannot do that. Whatever. So it kind of brings it closer to where people are. And at some point, who knows, maybe you will need to use that technology as well. So it's good to be prepared and not use it than other way around.
One of the first times I actually got to use it was from the Bitcoin walk. I didn't know much about it, but coming along and actually getting to spend sats and buy a gourmet sausage roll is one of my highlights as a Bitcoiner. And I feel like I'm forever in your debt for that.
Yeah, I remember that. I think the guy's still there. I need to we'll definitely go, this Saturday and pay him a visit, see if he's still stacking and how much Bitcoin he has now. Because we're not going to ask, but he's probably well happy with his decisions.
The answer is always not enough.
Hmm?
The answer is always not enough.
Not enough. Exactly.
And it just reminds me that I was lucky enough I managed to get on and speak at a panel at Prague recently, and that awkward introduction phase where they almost say something interesting about yourself or something interesting about your country, and all I could think about was that experience with the sausage roll van and letting everybody in the audience know that this gentleman probably represents the very first Bitcoin treasury company in the world without even knowing it.
Yeah. So early and so into it, right? Amazing. But I second that. I think what's happening, for example, in Madeira is we're doing it's a beautiful island and there's plenty of places to go for a walk or for a hike. So what we do is we change our locations. Normally, like in Edinburgh, we had one location. We would just go around the outer seat, as we're going to do this Saturday as well. If you have any time on your hands, please come join us. It would be amazing. We can do some more recording from there as well. If that's possible. But what we've been doing in Madeira is the one guy just had some idea that on those longer hikes sometimes you want to have a good healthy snack. So there's a fellow Bitcoiner who started making his own beef jerky, like dried beef jerky, and he's selling that exclusively for Sats. And like no matter how much he brings, he always sells out. So that's his unique selling point. I'm happy for him because I'm happy to give him my Sats because the produce is amazing. It's really it's right there at the quality that I need, and just gives me the nutrients and the taste that I like so much. And also, I know the guy is my friend, so yeah, I'm happy to pass my time and energy, my Sats, over to him because he deserves that. So Bitcoin, yeah, store of value, yeah, that's how it's designed to be as a primary feature. But then it goes on to become a medium of exchange, and eventually the unit of account once fiat dies. So I wonder how you see that happening in the UK, for example. Like UK is an interesting country because it's no longer in the EU, so you technically could be more free. You could have like UK could have more freedom right now. Does it?
I think that was the promise of leaving the EU, and you know, I think there was points to each side of the argument, and I try and take on board what each side was saying. But one of the promises was this idea of more freedom to sort of go our own way and do our own thing. But again, I feel like being up in Scotland, it's even more complicated because we have devolved matters. And I was just very recently, we passed, or our Scottish Parliament passed our Digital Assets Act, and this has literally just happened recently. So, and I don't think it's got much news headlines either. So I don't think it's been a
That's specific to Scotland. That's not you. That's just Scotland, right?
yeah, and it's complicated, and it's somebody that has got a bit of a background in hobbyist when it comes to politics. I still find it a bit confusing because so now in Scotland, Bitcoin is going to be treated as property, as in legislatively, it's actually so it coded the fund that Bitcoin is property, and that basically means that it can officially be used in terms of contracts. And I'm not talking smart contracts. I'm just talking about you're thinking about inheritance, you're thinking about estates, you're thinking about wills. That there is some protection there if you want to pass it on. It's sort of ironic that you're asking the state for permission to pass on your Bitcoin, but I won't get too crazy orange pill in there because it's a bit of a hypocrisy. But Scots law does recognise Bitcoin as property, can be used in contracts, and some of the advantages that they were talking about that it could help the Scottish fintech sector. I don't know quite how that happens yet, but it's still early days. I'll give them credit for at least thinking about it and trying to do something about it. But as I say, it's complicated even further by the fact you might be able to use Bitcoin in a contract, but if you want to sell it, you're still subject to UK capital gains tax, even though you're using definitions on Scottish devolved matters. I think it's a bit of a complicated, messy soup at the moment, and you've got people in Scotland that aren't even aware of Bitcoin, never mind adopting it, and I really don't think the politicians have the understanding, the knowledge, how to even articulate what they're talking about or understand what this thing is. As Bitcoiners, it's like reading legislation on gravity. governments and politicians make laws about gravity, it doesn't matter what the politicians legislate or what their opinions are. They cannot change these natural laws, and I feel like Bitcoin is more of a natural law than a man-made law, and there's friction there that I just don't think they fully comprehend, and it's going to cause fireworks or something down the line. But it's, as I say, it's very early days. At least they're trying to talk about it. I feel like it's, I'm trying to give them a bit of a knowledge branch here, but it still feels a little bit, cringeworthy moments that, they'll get there. It's, as you say, Bitcoin comes to you when you're ready for it, and we're at a very early awareness stage.
Yeah, absolutely. What it sounds like is like, the bureaucrats and the politicians are trying to, like, why don't they try to regulate and set the maximum speed of wind in Scotland? Because that's effectively how you want to regulate. It's the same thing. That's how you regulate Bitcoin. You can't.
Yeah.
It just is. And they have this perception of, like, okay, we're going to do something, and crazy. Panzalo, how did you end up with working with Peter and contributing to the conference?
I don't know, to be honest. I think Peter just popped in my life. What was it, like 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
Right.
I was doing a sort of running a place, which was a center just outside Manchester, where we were trying to do a kind of, how can I say, a place where it was splitting into. One was a kind of bar where you can spend your sats, and the other was to teach people how Bitcoin works and doing workshop and making awareness. And I think Peter was looking for a location, and he said, "Oh, why not going in around Manchester?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, that's fine." So that one is where we started. I think the first exposure we had, and then
Was that sorry to jump in? Was that the Satoshi's place?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Satoshi.
Yes,
I'm
I
trying
remember
to
that.
keep my mouth shut, but he's really downplaying himself. He was pretty much the backbone of for
Yeah.
helping run Satoshi's place. It's folklore now. Pans, you're going to be in a Wikipedia page somewhere for helping run that
If there is a
place.
Wikipedia of like British Bitcoin adoption, then you'll be there for sure. Like, I'm aware of that. Yes, so kudos. Yeah,
Okay.
well done, mate. That's a great effort.
Thank you. But yeah, he knows that I was passionate about it, and so I think we stay together in touch. And then I said, well, if you need help to run out any other event, because I used to provide support in the one in Edinburgh, and then here in Manchester as well. Then we ran the first BitFest. So I think it's a logical try to be as useful as possible, because I'm very selfish in a sense, because I like speaking with Bitcoiners, because I like talking with people with, I don't know, people from 1 second, but you feel like people from ages, because we are all aligned in the same sort of mental framework. So talking with a Bitcoiner,
Isn't
like having the best friend, you just discover to have, like you didn't know, but you have it. And I have that feeling with every Bitcoiner. So this is why I try to go around Bitcoin events and try to help give my time and energy to promote not only the Bitcoin. Well, we're not promoting Bitcoin, we're just promoting the community around it, because that one is where the fun is. And at the same time, you met a lot of people, you explore new technology, and there is an overlapping between AI and Bitcoin now, and it's always a place to learn.
absolutely. I've done my fair share of networking and some conferences and events. And before Bitcoin, I would go to those. I'm the kind of guy who's rather cheerful. I try to talk to people and try to build something, establish some relations, and see how we could help each other. And I kid you not, well, I've been living in the UK for like 15 years, and from all the events that I went to, there was always, a small talk and somebody trying to tell me about what they're building and trying to sell me something basically. Um, and like even if I was interested, and even if there was a nice small talk conversation, and we say, hey, should we swap numbers, and then maybe sometimes get in touch. Nothing happens. Never, ever, ever, ever. It's basically a cold, like, yeah, I'm busy with my life, forget it. And then Bitcoin happened, and Bitcoin Walk happened, and I started meeting strangers, and I started, having conversations. And as you say, um, I simplified it, saying that we have one thing in common, and this is the dominator, the 21 million. We are kind of connected with that, and I 100% agree with what you're saying. That it's much easier. There is no ego in that. We are doing that like nobody. We're not working for the Bitcoin marketing department, or maybe we are. Like but I keep on saying that this is something very unique and very rare to our species, to mankind. That basically people of all, pardon the pun, walks of life have something that is very reliable, very relatable, and we actually have we get excited about it. We're hopeful, we're optimistic. We see that we can build the world. We can influence how the world will look like in the future. How we pass it on to our kids. So I think this is the main reasons why we all keep on pushing, and you guys are doing what you're doing, which is great work. And I think that we should, by all means, try to support each other. So the stuff you're doing in Glasgow, kudos to that. I wish I could be there, but family affairs and being all over the place between three countries now, it's tricky. Um, but it's wonderful that you keep going, and you're doing yet another edition of the conference, and you get some amazing lineup of speakers. So I think I can maybe bring it up a little bit here. Yeah, we've got our conference. It's 29th, 30th of August, so the end of the month. And let me just scroll down. We got Nico Moran from Simply Bitcoin, absolute legend when it comes to education and the format that he built. That's one of my Bitcoin heroes when it comes to telling the Bitcoin story. We got Checkmate, amazing
can I
analyst.
just mention as well, if that's okay, just a little bit,
Yes.
just to set you up for what you're saying. We've actually got Nico Moran from Simply Bitcoin. He's going to be on stage this year, but we've got three remote interviews. Everybody else is going to be on stage, but we've got 3 remote interviews from James Check, beaming in from Australia, and we've got Raphael as well. He'll be beaming in from the USA, along with Dennis Porter. So those will be our 3 remote interviews, but everybody else, every other Bitcoiner will be on stage.
Amazing. That is superb. I'm just gonna whiz for the for your lineup. Obviously, we got Ben Ark, an amazing guy, builder, and a superhero of mine in terms of Noster and everything he's doing there. Yeah, Rick, Claire from London School, Dennis Porter, and many more. And then we move to the artistic side. So get Remo from Helsinki and Roger 9000, as well as another fellow Scandinavian, Remy, high or low. Fantastic, guys. This is a great effort. I think it's going to be an amazing event.
Can I just mention there about one of the speakers there? There was a gentleman called Kieran, and I met him over at the Dublin conference, Kieran Doyle. So he's a tax specialist, but obviously when it comes to UK matters, it would be HMRC, and as you can imagine, it's a different regulatory environment in terms of being able to give advice. We originally had plans last year for a UK tax specialist to give a talk on stage, but as you know fine well, life sometimes doesn't always go to plan, and he wasn't able to make it. But Kieran actually, just from sitting on a chair, actually as an attendee of the conference, just ran up on stage and gave some words of wisdom. And obviously, he was very careful to stress the fact that he's from Ireland, and don't take this as official financial advice. But that was when you were talking about what it's like to meet Bitcoiners, and just the fact that they give up their time and energy, a bit like Pans here. This is a gentleman that
Absolutely.
just saw that we were a man down and unable to provide one of the presentations that we'd planned for. And without a split second, this man went from sitting in his chair, drinking probably a pint of Guinness, literally, and then up on stage, taking a Q&A session about giving people advice on how to buy and sell Bitcoin. And it's just those sort of moments that make you realise it's just more than a sort of community at times. There's a sort of kinship there, or it's a little bit like family, as cheesy as it sounds, but you just you're in safe hands.
No,
You're
absolutely.
Bitcoiners.
Yeah.
It
Kieran
was
Doyle, what?
like a super. Yeah, it was literally like imagine Clark Kent sit on the in the stage, and then he just opened the t-shirt like the skirt, and it went on flying on the stage. It was amazing, and yeah, that one is exactly encapsulate what a Bitcoin community is. We all there for having support each other and to have fun and meet new people.
Yeah, and if I could just continue with that plug, I feel like Pans, one of the sort of the missions for us when it comes to the Scottish Bitcoin Conference, it was really more about the vibe of it. And I really don't like the word conference sometimes, because it's not a series of lectures. It's not about coming along to be educated. I mean, everybody's learning from everybody in that venue, and there's opportunities to do so much more than just sit and listen to somebody speak at you. The whole conference from start to finish is just as much of a social experience, and with the side events that we're doing, it's so. I mean, the whole thing starts off with the walk. It's the best icebreaker you could ever think about. Just spending those 40 minutes walking and talking about Bitcoin, and to bring it back to what you were talking about with your Edinburgh walk, that I think it was you that told me what happens to your brain when you start walking after like 10 minutes. Was that, am I right in saying that? Would you remind me what you said?
Yeah. It's it's in the human anatomy. You're walking, you're watching. You put your feet after step by step. You're watching under your feet, and you don't want to fall down. You're watching your horizon. You see where you're going. So your attention is away from the person you're talking to. You don't have constant eye contact, which could be quite sometimes intimidating, especially if you're talking. If you're new to Bitcoin and you're talking to someone who's way more experienced. There's like, oh, I don't want to make a fool out of myself, or I've been there many times, and I find that the walking format is brilliant. And actually, sometimes, like, the way I learned most of my knowledge is just by listening to other people talk. Yeah, honestly, being there, it's like free education, and you hear how people reason, and where they're coming from. And it's not just Bitcoin, it's so many more things. When it comes to monetary policy, it comes to energy, it comes to environment. There's so many aspects of that: philosophy, ethics. There's plenty, and I think I'm pretty sure that there's something for everybody there. So also for someone who is completely new to Bitcoin, but maybe thought things like, I can see that something is off. Like, I would like to get some freedom, some sovereignty, like just in case the government fucks me up in the future. I'm not saying it will, but I want to be able to have a little bit of my time and energy that I spent as a young, productive fellow preserved for the future. Something that nobody can take away from me. So if you've got those thoughts, then Bitcoin is probably something you should consider and check out. And going to events like Be the Change conference in Glasgow is exactly a good opportunity to meet like-minded people, to actually have those conversations, make yourself more accustomed to, understand What is noise and what is signal? Find the difference. That's how we differentiate Bitcoin from crypto. Like, don't fall into this trap. You want to make sure that you know the difference, you understand the difference, that we're dealing with digital gold versus digital casino. So like, these are the simple metaphors that people keep on talking about and explaining, but I think they're very, very critical, because the internet is full of all sorts of random things, and it's very easy to get fooled and to buy some shitcoin, whatever, and get your money, see your money gone, basically. So those events are really educational, and I think that the more you come to them, the better you become at being a Bitcoiner, if there's such thing at all.
Can I just mention as well, Endo, that one of the reasons I love the whole thing starts with the Bitcoin walk is, in the past couple of years when we ran the conference, and you can imagine what it's like if you are on your own and you're arriving at a conference for something like Bitcoin and you don't fully understand it, it can be intimidating. And when we have seen people arrive at the start of the conference, it can be a little bit awkward. You don't know anybody. You could be disorientated slightly. You don't know what room to go into, and trying to make connections with people, or avoiding making eye contact with people too early on to build the social aspect. But the second the people that were on the walk arrives, the whole room changes. You've got 30, 40 people, maybe more, arriving all at once, a big friendly rabble of people that have just been discussing Bitcoin for 40 minutes and solving the problems of the world. And as soon as they arrive, that is when the conference really starts. That is when it turns from just this awkward experience into, okay, I made the right decision coming along today.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a very nice break, because, as I mentioned before, it's a low pressure. You are shoulder to shoulder. You're not looking people in the eyes, in a sense. You are less intimidated. Your brain is well oxygenated, and you're ready to go. And we are ready with some connection, maybe you were not expecting.
Yeah. Also, I think
Sorry, just what you were saying there about the difference between Bitcoin and crypto. I mean, obviously for us, there is that clear distinction. So, I don't have to repeat our thoughts on it. I mean, we're laser focused on Bitcoin, and when it came to building the conference, that was always the goal. We didn't want to associate ourselves with anything other than 100% focused on Bitcoin. And just yesterday, I forwarded Pans an email we received as a bit of a joke, where some random, I want to say, was that an Asian exchange, Pans, that sent us an email looking to offer sponsorship, in exchange, obviously, for us taking some time to maybe share their company on stage, and it was just laughable. And it was a serious email, and I'm trying my hardest not to sound too horrible about it, but it's just, there was no way in hell we were ever going to entertain an email like that. And it might have been a chance to bring in some easy money for us to take time out and go down that route, but it's a hard no. It's hard money we're all about.
Especially, it was also contradictory, because as part of the second day, we're going to do a kind of workshop or session on peer-to-peer, how to buy Bitcoin pretty much peer-to-peer. And I was thinking, well, that the exchange is, well, completely off the market anyway, but it was like even a clash. And I responded to Peter, and I wanted to say, like, in kind of nice way, like, I don't think it's a good idea, especially because it's contrasting, but it's not. And he just responded with only 2 words, which probably you understand. But it was more direct, and I appreciated the fact that we all align on the mission that we have, not on the revenue that we can gain easy money. But that one is good. This is why I like to stay around Peter.
So at this point, I'm going to pop the question: like, if somebody's new to this and listening to that and say, "Oh well, there's some company offering you money for a conference," and you're saying no because we're Bitcoin only, are you guys a cult or a sect or something?
Yeah, we're definitely. I, I don't even know what to call ourselves, because I feel like, the word cult, I'm pretty sure if you check the definitions, it might actually overlap it a little bit, but it's really not. There's Pans is free to leave at any point, I promise, if if you really
Of
really
course,
wanted to.
I'm joking now, but
Yeah,
I have come across this, like somebody asked me that question, like, "Oh my God, you're so you're such a toxic maxi," and I say, "Thank you,
yeah,
that's a compliment." That actually means a lot. I try my best to educate people and to show that the difference between that. But also, it goes to show how hard it is to push with education and with awareness when you're competing with entities that have marketing budgets, that have plenty of uh, some tokens they pre-sale, and they literally have budgets to work with. You or me, we don't have that. We have to do everything organically from zero to whatever we come up with. So I pay a lot of respect to that, and that's why I'm really happy to have you guys on the show, because I think you're pushing the ball really hard, especially in the UK, which I find that in countries where you have a relative wealth and you have a good standard of living, which UK until recently uh, was having, and probably it's not going up anymore. It's probably stagnated or slightly falling down. Um, but in countries that are developed like the UK, it's kind of harder for people to understand is that why this is a critical and essential game theory that is not waiting for anybody to say, oh, maybe I'll do it in a few years when it catches up. Well, the whole world is not waiting, and people are moving on. People who are actually from countries that experience the pain of hyper, Venezuela, Turkey, also Cyprus, also Lebanon, also recently Iran. They understand Bitcoin through pain. Doing and in Scotland, this is just basically something to prepare people how to use of their time and energy before the pain comes. And pain might come, within days, weeks, months, years. You don't know that, but something might happen. That's
yeah.
what I wanted
I feel
to tell how it's. Mhm.
we're spoiled in a way in the UK,
Yes.
and we take it
Yeah.
for granted. And of course, there's inequality, and of course, there's poverty. Nobody's denying that. But the infrastructure that we have in the UK, it's developed. There's access to credit almost for everybody. There are times where if you had a job or not, you could still qualify for some sort of credit. And there are people that I was talking to one of my friends outside of London. I think he had to move out of London because of the prices of rent. And it's impossible to try and catch him now just to talk to him, because all he does is work. I think officially or unofficially, he's got 3 jobs, and he's forced into that situation just to survive, to pay for a roof and to cover the costs for his child. And trying to
Sounds like
explain
a
to him,
perfect hamster wheel.
yeah, and trying to explain to him that Bitcoin, I believe, could be an answer to a problem that you're facing. He doesn't have the time to listen to me try and explain that to him, where he's so hyper focused on the month to month getting by. It's difficult, and that it's unfair. It's insulting that that's a position that many of us are pushed into. And you're right. That hamster wheel, it's a trap, and once you're in it, it's difficult to sort of stop and look for something outside of that wheel, that box for a solution. But it is there. It just you really need to find that time, even if it's just on your commute, listening to that podcast or giving something up. I mean, I've spoke just like yourselves. I've spoke to many people who just tell me as well they don't want to understand or talk about Bitcoin because they don't have any money to put into Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But then they'll tell me about the second holiday they're going on, and it's difficult because I appreciate people's circumstances, but when you were talking about learning to drive, Bitcoin reminds me a little bit like that. Once you actually do get your license, the very first car that you own, whatever it may be, all of a sudden you see it in the road everywhere. Once you own that car, you cannot move for seeing somebody else driving your same car. Once you buy a little bit of Bitcoin, you start seeing and thinking about Bitcoin everywhere, and it's never the same again. Once you start putting on those sort of Bitcoin tinted glasses when it comes to just shopping, how you interact with people, and like you were talking about, when it comes to when we're trying to raise funds to do a conference, that you see that other companies were probably forced or persuaded or manipulated into accepting money from companies that didn't have their best interests at heart, and trying to align those values into a company that you run. I think it must be impossible. I think it's why as well you see so many YouTubers. You're watching an interesting video, an interesting podcast, and all of a sudden they stop to talk about the most random sponsor you've ever seen. And it's those fiat games, those fiat business-minded games that just spoil something that obviously somebody was trying hard to get a message across, working a YouTube channel, and along comes the promise of some money if you'll stop and talk about our skincare. And it's just, there's something not right there. And when you put those Bitcoin glasses on, you just see it a little bit more clearly.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. I think that the moment you start going down the Bitcoin rabbit hole and getting some exposure, you're getting some skin in the game, as they say, then it's you get more curious. You start being understanding, speaking the same language, and you actually understand that it's not magic. It's not like magic. It's something that's quite accessible actually. And in my case, I keep on giving this because it's my personal case. Before Bitcoin, I used to work in a couple of different countries, and I would have some pension fund somewhere in Poland, something in the UK, and I was kind of anxious about, my goodness, when I get old, who is going, like, what am I going to have to keep me going, And the moment you discover Bitcoin, you understand that now when you're young and healthy and strong, you keep on going, you keep on saving in an asset that no one can inflate away from you or take away from you. This whole anxiety about the pension stuff, it just goes away.
Yeah.
I love this feeling of freedom that I don't have to depend on filling in the forms and asking for any fund or government to maybe send me some food stamps.
Yeah. It's not about getting rich quickly, and that's one of my probably when I started trying to talk about Bitcoin, I was sort of sick of getting asked about the price of it, how much it's worth, how much have you put in, how much have you made, how much have you lost, but it was about the value, and I didn't appreciate that at first. There's a real difference between the price of Bitcoin and the value of Bitcoin. And when I'm trying to orange pill somebody I met at a random, social situation, I try and, give them a routine. And one of the things I talk about is you understand the price of your mobile phone and you understand the value of it. If the price of mobile phones were to fall by 50% tomorrow, you would not rush out and sell your mobile phone, because you really do understand the value that just having that piece of technology. You know what that brings to you. There's it's probably quite difficult to try and convince you to sell that mobile phone, and it's I feel like it's that pivot towards Bitcoin. Once you understand the value of this technology, it doesn't really matter if it's up or down 10%. You stop associating it with price, and you start connecting it to the independence that it can bring to your life. It sounds cheesy, but it's like a financial zen like state. How
Right.
many hours obviously do you spend working in your lifetime? But it's not just about that. I heard Michael Saylor throw down something like 35,000 hours of your life is spent working. But beyond that, how many hours do you spend thinking about money? It's a
Zero. Yeah.
constant worry. Even if you've got it, it's probably even more of a worry. Never mind if you don't have it or you're trying to get it. It's a constant stress in your life, because there's always somebody trying to get it, or there's always somebody taking it discreetly. When we're talking about the government taxing you, I mean, I honestly, how many taxes could you actually name? There's just, when it comes to trying to earn your wage and then trying to, go out and buy a dinner with it, I don't know how many taxes you're actually touched by, from VAT to income tax. It's difficult to understand. So I think you don't think about it, but you do worry a lot about your life, about money. But when you don't have to, when you start to appreciate Bitcoin, and that worry goes away, that nobody can take it from you, that it's not going to be devalued in terms of the actual quantity of it. No, nobody's going to inflate your Bitcoin away. You start to be able to ask a serious question about yourself, sort of, who am I? And Bitcoin gives you actual time to think about that. When I don't have to think about money, who the hell am I, and what would I like to do with my life? And
Yeah.
that's quite a powerful message. That trying to explain that to somebody in a 5-minute window about what is Bitcoin, when all they want to know is how much is it worth, it can be a difficult task.
Yeah, and this is why Bitcoin is a religion. It's a cult. But also
Well,
to go
I
back to what Peter was saying, this is also why, without even fully knowing why, people try to spend the fiat. They don't want to accumulate it. They know that they need to go to spend it because, sorry, they don't know necessarily why, but they know that if they don't enjoy the fiat now, the same amount of fiat will be worth less, which is called of the inflation. And this is why
of course.
people go holiday, people do whatever, but they don't invest. They don't, like, even in traditional market, they don't look at alternative, which is obviously Bitcoin. They are so focused on the kind of spending now and not thinking about later, because the government is going to eat my profit, my money, and I think it's going to be even worse with the CBDC or digital identity, because over there they're going to absolutely control us. And the main problem I can see is that if they, obviously they're going to start gradually. Now they started with the ID verification for internet for young people, but if they're going to say, oh, that is normal, they're going to brainwash you from the infrastructure level, because you understand, yeah, that this is normal. And then when I need to go to have shopping, I need to show my digital ID, which the doctor maybe can block because I have high diabetes or whatever, and I can't have the candies, which is not for me, for my kids. So it's going to be a gradual, like boiling the frog, pretty much situation.
Absolutely, and like with CBDCs, of course, this is programmable money. So if at any point any government decides, hey, you know what, our economy is not doing so great, we should probably try to stimulate the economy. Let's make people spend more money. So let's set an expiry date on the money that people have. As simple as that. So with CBDC, basically, your money will. It's possible to set it in a way that until the end of the month you have to spend it, otherwise you lose it and it's gone. And people need to be made aware of those things because I don't think that this is being talked enough. And I'm trying to also kind of push this, plant that seed in people's head to say, okay, it is not like you have to be careful. It's not also so pretty, right?
Yeah, I just think as well, as much as I agree with you, I'm a little bit skeptical that we get this CBDC because even trying to build homes in the UK is even trying to build a high speed rail network. It takes us several years at least to even agree on huge infrastructure projects like that, and it's sort of ironically might be a little bit of our savior, the fact that the government, I mean, God knows who, when you're listening to this, the Prime Minister actually is, because I'm struggling to keep up with what who is our cabinet minister for such and such, because I genuinely can't tell you. I've lost interest in caring as much about who's sitting at the desk, because we talk about the left and right divide, and I remember when as a student of politics, about one of the arguments was that the politics is dead because there is no decisions to be made. Almost history, that era is over because we're so locked in now with when it comes to our debt, that there is very little that the government can actually do now other than stay on course and increase that debt. What they actually can do in terms of their left and right ideologies, they're restricted by the straitjacket that they actually put themselves into. And trying to convince me that they're going to introduce a CBDC when anytime I open up a government app on my phone, I'm really not convinced they can run something a big of a project when it comes to a digital currency. Maybe they do it, but I don't know if I see it in my lifetime, even though it's a hot topic at the moment. And I don't have to worry about it as a Bitcoiner. Bitcoin just works, and it's going to eat their lunch, and I feel like it's going to be somewhat enjoyable watching them come to the realization that they cannot legislate Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It's that international commodity. It's like trying to legislate on steel in another country or timber
Or wind.
in another
Yeah,
country.
yeah,
Cannot be
yeah,
done.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. That's why I think like a radical shift needs to, in perception needs to happen on the top level for people to, like, in the government, to say, guys, let's be brutally honest with ourselves. We have not understood Bitcoin. The level of debate over the last years is, let's just park it aside and let's move forward. Let's see what's going on. Let's see how much energy is Scotland producing, because we've got windmills, there's plenty of stuff. Let's see how much of that the British grid can consume, and what do we do with the rest of it? Well, we waste it. There is curtailments every year of hundreds of millions of pounds that are being paid to private, investors who are paid for disconnecting the electricity. Well, instead, we could use the electricity, the surplus of electricity, to actually do something useful, like mining Bitcoin. It's something that is easy to execute. You just a couple of tanks out there, connect them. The demand is low for energy. And when you just disconnect and everything flies to the grid. There is no issues, no costs to the society, to the community. On the other hand, you can start building a reserve of an asset. So if you want to give it back to people, that would make energy even cheaper. those are the kind of conversations that we should be having. The politicians should be having, and it seems like they're
And,
not quite there yet.
Endo, that it really sort of irks me sometimes along those lines, because they act like the UK government and many European governments as well. It's almost like energy is the villain at times. The production and consumption of energy is something that we should move away from, as if that is the solution here. But if you look, when it really comes down to it, when you take out their feelings on this issue and you look at the facts, like the facts of international or national survival, when it comes to Ukraine trying to defend itself against an aggressor, they target the energy infrastructure of their opponent, because without energy, there is no battle to be had there. They're not dropping leaflets and asking them to stop, or using their feelings to try and end the war. They're not negotiating or articulating their points. They're hitting their energy infrastructure to cripple that country. Now, Scotland and the UK are almost doing that willingly themselves without an external aggressor, but in a different way. And I cannot, for the life of me, understand why the correlation between energy consumption and living in a civilized society, that there's a clear link there. More energy equals a stronger civilization. And if you
Development.
if you create a weak infrastructure, you get a weak society. And that's why with Bitcoin, it's an energy backed tool. And Scotland is one of the sort of things I'm proud of when it comes to Scotland. Is I want to get my facts right, but in 2022 we produced 100% of our electricity using renewable energy. I can't think of a handful of countries that can even have ever done that, or are capable of doing that. Scotland is uniquely positioned when it comes to energy production. We have vast amounts of rain and wind and wave power that is probably going over our highlands and hitting our highlands right now, that is absolutely wasted energy that could be a vital resource to securing. I mean, whether you agree with Scottish independence or not, I feel like if you're in favour of it, you should be a Bitcoiner, because Bitcoin offers you that escape from the pound and a secure economic future, which is many of the uncertainties. If you're voting to leave the UK, you're worried about the currency, you're worried about your economic future. I'm not saying Bitcoin is your savior, but it's an answer in the equation.
Absolutely, I couldn't have put it myself better. Guys, we've actually rumbled for over an hour already, so I think it's a good time to maybe let the people go and digest all that, and maybe get their tickets for the conference that's coming up in the end of August. And I really have the FOMO now, because I can imagine how cool the conversations are going to be in Glasgow next month. So yeah, that's been a hell of a chat. I do appreciate having you guys on. Is there any last things you would like to share with our audience? Pan, I'll start with you, because I appreciate we've been talking a lot. Throw something in.
Well, just a reminder to use, if you're still listening or you're connected, to use the promo code, which is, I think, Bitcoin Walk, which was displayed before. So this is going to give you 21% off. So that is another reason to come over. Oh, that's it. Thank you. So yeah, to come over, have fun, and there are going to be 2 days, so a lot of activity, event, after party, and a community focus second day event. Sorry, the event second day. So yeah, a lot of fun. Looking forward for it.
Amazing. Awesome. Peter, your last words.
I just want to say that I hope next year that means you'll be on stage in Glasgow, Endo, and we can get you on our website for next year. But yeah, I think if anybody's on the fence about coming to this conference, there is nothing that we're going to try and sell you. You can be as introvert or as extrovert as you like at the conference. You don't even have to listen to any of our speakers. You can take part in the Bitcoin chocolate workshop that we're going to be having. We're going to have other workshops as well if it's not your thing to sit in a room and listen to somebody's 20-minute presentation. You can come along to the after party. If you want to borrow or bring your guitar, you can feel free to get up on stage. And we're hoping to have a little bit of an open mic if anybody wants it. I think we've got somebody as well coming to give us a Bitcoin poem as well that we're looking forward to. So it really is. It's a social event from start to finish, and you can pick any points of it that you want to come along and take part in. If you just want to get your picture taken with our local bagpiper marching through Kelvin Grove Park, then that's fine with us.
That is amazing. Guys, such a pleasure. Thank you for all the work you're doing, and thank you for the conversation. Peter Connor, Gonzalo, Be the Change, the conference in Glasgow coming up end of August. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Nice talking to you again.